So hello, and welcome to the Constitutional 90% Silver Stacking video. Before we get into looking at coins and looking at the spreadsheet, forgive me if I ramble just a little bit, but I feel like I have to explain at first just a little bit on how I track things, why I track things, and maybe just a little bit on why it looks the way it does. Yeah, so I guess to begin, I previously talked before in a couple of videos about when I was growing up, we used to visit a lot of antique shops and flea markets and stuff. My dad and my mom, well, mostly my dad, they were really into collecting antiques and things. And my dad had like lots of old antique furniture in the house. He had a really big old milk bottle collection, cookie jars and Planters peanuts and Coca-Cola, and we even have an old Coke machine in the house where you put 10 cents in and you push down a little lever and you pull the Coke bottle out. And he had like refrigeration on it, worked. It was all plugged in, everything worked. Sometimes he would even put Coca-Cola bottles in it. So growing up, I've seen lots of these old coins in the flea markets and things. And in another video, I talked about how I got into precious metal stacking, and stacking 90% actually came by the way of looking at fractional 999 silver. When I was looking at that, you have your 10th ounces, quarter ounces, half ounces, and stuff like that. But when I really started looking into it, I was like, why not just buy dimes and quarters and half dollars instead of 1/10, 1/4, and half? Well, when I kind of got into that, though, it set me on a whole nother journey of putting together this album. And then I kind of reverted back and really got into putting together a little jar for 90%. And like a lot of this, what I learned, it didn't really come from a lot of other videos and things. I wasn't necessarily taught any of this information. It was just something I kind of just picked up on, through doing research on things. But I guess I started noticing like different patterns in certain things, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense right now. But when you see my spreadsheet, the way I started noticing patterns, it's really going to make sense when you see that. It's really the spreadsheet. It's really extensive. It goes like everything else I do it. Nothing's done half-ass. Everything I do is you do it all the way or just leave it alone and don't do it at all. So that's what I got for now. And I guess we really start looking at some coins. So I guess when you're building a small collection of 9% silver coins, it really all starts with a jar. I've had a few coins just loosely put aside before, but just stacking 90%, it really doesn't begin until you develop some sort of method for separating and storing your coins. So when I was younger, I explained how my dad would separate his coins in a few milk bottles. And as I grew older, I picked up the same little practice. And I guess to begin, you need some sort of jar or a milk bottle or something to put your coins in. And just personally, I would label it. That way I know what's in there, and family members, whoever else comes across it, they'll know the jar is just for silver coins. It's also important to test these coins and make sure you aren't adding fakes. But you also don't want modern post-64 coins mixed in either. This jar is specifically for 90% silver. And then you should set some kind of goal. In the beginning, my goal was build a jar. I've seen other channels with sort of challenges like fill a treasure chest and other things. But basically, it's all about the same thing. Fill the jar. That sort of brings us to the first question. What should I fill the jar with? Should I fill it with halves? How about quarters? Or maybe dimes? Or maybe just get another jar and have one of each. Personally, I like diversity. So I fill my jar with a mix of everything. Then I set a goal, $100. Or if you have a smaller jar, you just say $50, $20. But my goal is $100. This is something else I personally want to do. I've seen some stacker channels that just keep everything loose, and some put everything in the capsule. But most of this is just already circulated, and it's passed through several hands already. So I generally keep all my 90% loose, but in a jar, and I like to separate one of each, usually my nicest coin, or maybe a rare date or a key date, and put each one into a cat book. And there are some earlier coins, Siege of Liberties, cat bust, straight bust. But when we're talking about stacking 90%, this mostly pertains to Morgans, peace dollars, and in half, quarters, dime, starting from barbers and going up to 1964. Before the barbers, it's nice to have those things, but it's sort of where I draw that narrow line that I talked about between stacking and numismatics or collectible old coins. As you may have noticed, there are certain amounts of each denomination in my stack. Well, that was sort of by design. So let's go into the spreadsheet for a better explanation. So for anybody that's watched my weekly update videos, you might be familiar with this page. I update these charts every week along with the precious metals portfolio page, and there are links throughout the workbook to intertwine and connect. So I only kind of type something one time, and it'll populate in different pages with different formulas and all that. But the entire book is to serve one purpose: dollar cost averaging. So before I get into the constitutional 90% tab, I just want to say one thing, that this is somewhat sort of like personal finance information, and I really wasn't all that comfortable with sharing it, but it's to help others and educate others. So I really don't mind helping people. So just don't judge me for it. So first, let me just say that I really didn't get started to collecting 90% until last March or April of 2025. So my overall cost averages might appear higher than someone who's been stacking since like the 1990s or the 1980s. And a lot of this sheet pertains to dollar cost averaging, but also a lot of it pertains to setting personal bid limits for participating in online auctions. A lot of my stack and a lot of my numismatic book as well came from eBay. Mostly, participate on eBay auctions, picking up coins that way. And a lot of it like this, and as well as that, I tend to buy coins at like sometimes in lots, but typically one at a time, or sometimes it could be like maybe 6 to 8 coins at a time, over a weekend. And to really get into this, slide it over. So you see, I have some notes here, and from a dollar quantities, 50-cent quantities, 25-cent quantities, and 10% quantities. You'll notice that there's a certain way that I went about it, as like say starting with dollars and Morgan, peace dollars and Morgans. I was trying to aim for getting 20 and 10, but it ended up working out to where I got 15 and 15. So I got 1 for 1 instead of, I was planning on getting 20 Morgans and 10 peace dollars, but it just worked out to where I was ended up getting 1 for 1. And Kennedy's and Franklin's and Walking Liberties and the Barbers and the half dollars kind of worked out a method of it. I worked it out to where I'll get like Kennedy's at 1/3 of Franklin's, Walking Liberties at 1/2 of Kennedy's plus Franklin's, Barbers at 1/3 of Walking Liberties. So I ended up getting 2 Franklins more than I would normally. I thought I was going to get. I was hoping to get 18 Franklins, and now I would have 18 Franklins and 6 Kennedys, which gives you 24. Half of 24 is 12. 1/3 of 12 will be 4. So I should have gotten 4 Barbers, but I ended up getting 2 extra Franklins. And the Washingtons, Standing Liberties, and Barbers, those numbers worked out just perfectly like I wanted to do it. 36 Washingtons, half of that is 18, and 1/3 of 18 is 6. And dimes, Roosevelts, I planned on getting 60, but I ended up getting more Mercuries than what I originally planned. Well, I should have worked out where I had 60 Roosevelts, 30 Mercuries, and 1/3 of 30 to be 10 Barbers. So going over to the left here, well, you can see that the one thing the production years that I did a little bit different was on Standing Liberties. It was kind of important to me that I know they're a bit worn. You can get dateless ones before 1925, but it was kind of important to me to get dates on the coins. That was a little bit more important to me because a coin, even especially in numismatics, a coin has to have a date on it. So even though it's a bit worn, You type threes from 1925 to 1930, those will still have dates on them. Then go on to mint weights. There's a certain formula that you can kind of memorize. Peace dollars and Morgans, it'll be 26.73 grams, and there's 31.1 grams in an ounce. If you want to really get down to a gnat's ass, it's 31.10347768 grams to an ounce. But that would be completely mint. That's straight from the mint. If it landed on a satin pillow and somebody picked it up and put it straight into a NGC holder, that's straight mint. So most of these coins are all going to be a little bit worn, and they're all going to be a little bit less than mint. Okay, then going down, but you start, your dollars will be 26.73. Everything after that, if a dollar was 25 grams, then a half dollar is 12 and a half, a quarter is 6.25, and your dimes are 2.5. So it's just, if a dollar was 25 grams, that'll be your weights for your half dollars, quarters, and dimes. And you take that number and I would multiply it by current spot price. I use that weekly price and I multiply that by the mint weight, and it gives me a total value, a mint value. It's going to be a little bit less because if you actually were to weigh it, it would come out a little bit less. And then my total cost is just a manual. If I picked up a new Franklin half and I paid $14 for it, I would just add the $14 to that total cost. Where like here, my total cost on Franklin's is $264.82. If I bought another one and I paid $14 for it, well, I would just add the 14 to it to be $278.82. And that is divided by 20, which gives you an average cost per piece. And then you can take that average cost per piece, or actually for your mint values, and you can figure out how much your premiums were from that. And you can also take that average cost per piece and figure out what your face value cost was. So it's kind of how I work it out. I do a lot of things in spreadsheets, and I do a lot of things by numbers, so it helps me out with my dollar cost averaging and everything on it. But also, like I said, a lot of this, I would use it for like setting a bid limit, because I'll participate in so many auctions, and a lot of what I bought came from auction. So, and there was no way to really track how I would, I might pick up a half dollar on a Monday night. I might pick up another one on Wednesday night. I might pick up a couple of quarters on Tuesday morning, and all during that time, your spot price is constantly fluctuating. So it kind of worked out to where, but I'll set a bid limit every time I'll get into an auction. The most I would spend on a Kennedy half would be $13.95, and the most I'll spend on Franklin would be $14.05. And I will set that max bid right off the top. And if somebody outbid me, well, let them have it, and I'll just go bid on another one and try to pick up another one to keep my costs down. Typically, and it is a lot better if you want to buy it in bulk. Like SD Bullion has deals on them. A lot of your online dealers have it. I know even my local dealer, you can buy them in bulk in bags or rolls and get a better deal that way. But I kept picking them up one by one, so maybe like a dollar or two face every week or something like that, and add it all together, and this is how I came up with it. So I think that's explains quite a bit, and like I said, it's how much more than I was really comfortable with talking about. But if it really helps someone to understand the numbers and see how things actually go together with this, it would make I really don't mind helping people. So I guess that just about covers it. If you have any questions on things, just drop in the comments below, or just let me know what you think. How do you track it? I'm always open to constructive ideas. So, well, thank you, and thanks for watching. I'd like to give a special thanks to all the channel subscribers. And if you haven't already, please leave a like, comment if you don't mind. And if you're feeling generous and would like to help someone, I have a few links in the description below. Thank you, I really appreciate it.